The Titanic has sunk! More than 1,500 lives were lost in a single night. But the story didn't end at the bottom of the sea. I am Professor Punsworth, and today we're diving into what really happened after the Titanic disappeared beneath the waves. Who rescued the survivors? How did the world respond? And what changed because of that terrible night? At 4 a.m. on April 15th, 1912, the RMS Carpathia finally arrived. She had steamed through dangerous ice to reach the site. What the crew saw was heartbreaking. Frozen wreckage, empty lifeboats, and hundreds of survivors shivering under the early morning sky. The Carpathia picked up 705 survivors. Many were in shock. Some were injured. Almost all had lost family or friends. Doctors, crew members, and passengers on the Carpathia did everything they could to help. They shared blankets, food, and comfort. A floating rescue in the middle of grief. Meanwhile, the world waited for answers. News of the disaster spread slowly at first. Many newspapers didn't believe the first reports. Some even printed headlines saying the Titanic hadn't sunk. But by April 16th, the truth was clear. Front pages around the world carried the same shocking story. Titanic lost. Over 1,500 dead. Crowds gathered at train stations and shipping offices. People clung to hope that their loved ones had survived. Lists of survivors were posted, but many names were missing. When the Carpathia arrived in New York on April 18th, thousands were waiting at the dock. There were tears of relief and heartbreak. Reporters crowded the survivors. Families searched the crowds for familiar faces. The Titanic may have been gone, but the world had only just begun to understand what had happened. Almost immediately, investigations began. In both the United States and the United Kingdom, official hearings were held to find out what went wrong. Survivors testified about the iceberg, the lifeboats, and the confusion on deck. Officers, crew, and company executives answered tough questions. Why weren't there enough lifeboats? Why were some gates locked? Did the ship ignore iceberg warnings? The world wanted answers, and answers came. Investigators discovered that Titanic's radio operators had received multiple iceberg warnings that day, but not all were delivered to the captain. They also confirmed that lifeboats had been launched underfilled and that many passengers weren't given clear instructions. The evacuation had been rushed and uneven. As a result, major changes were made. New maritime laws were passed around the world. Every passenger ship was now required to have enough lifeboats for everyone on board. Ships had to hold lifeboat drills and post-evacuation plans. Radio operators were required to stay on duty 24 hours a day. And a new ice patrol was created to track dangerous icebergs. Titanic's loss didn't just change ship design, it changed international safety forever. A tragedy became a turning point, but the story of the Titanic didn't end in 1912. For decades, people searched for the ship's remains. No one knew exactly where it had sunk, and the ocean kept its secrets. Then, in 1985, more than 70 years later, scientists finally found the wreck of the Titanic. It was over 12,000 feet beneath the surface, 2 miles straight down. The ship was split in two, just like survivors had described. One half was lying on the ocean floor, the other was nearly 2,000 feet away. Rust-covered railings, torn metal walls, plates and teacups resting silently in the sand. A museum of memories beneath the waves. Since then, submarines and cameras have captured thousands of images from the wreck site. Some items have been recovered and placed in museums. Others remain on the seafloor, undisturbed. The Titanic has become more than just a ship. It's a story, a warning, a reminder of what happens when confidence outruns caution. Books, documentaries, and films have kept its memory alive. Millions of people visit Titanic exhibits every year, and the lessons still matter today. Let's review what happened after the Titanic disappeared beneath the sea. The events that followed changed history. After the sinking, the RMS Carpathia rescued 705 survivors. The world reacted with shock, sadness, and questions. Investigations revealed serious safety flaws, including too few lifeboats and missed iceberg warnings. New laws were passed to protect future passengers. Lifeboat rules were rewritten. Radio systems improved, and an ice patrol was created. Quiz time! Let's see what you remember from the aftermath. Question 1. Which ship rescued Titanic's survivors? Answer. The RMS Carpathia. Question 2. What year was the Titanic wreck finally discovered? Answer. 1985. Question 3. What changes were made to ship safety laws? Answer. More lifeboats, 24-hour radio watches, and better iceberg patrols. Question 4. How deep is the Titanic wreck? Answer. About 12,500 feet, or nearly 2.5 miles underwater. Here's your discussion question. What part of Titanic's legacy do you think is most important? The technology, the changes, or the memory? So, what happened after the Titanic sank? People searched for truth. They asked questions. They changed the rules to protect others. It reminds us that even in tragedy, there can be lessons, progress, and hope. If you've enjoyed this series, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a voyage with the curious professors. Thanks for sailing through history with me. This is Professor Punsworth, wishing you smooth seas and safe journeys always.